In today's video, we're doing all new Dollar Tree DIYs. I feel like there's so many high-end candle options and I love to try to recreate them with Dollar Tree items. So I saw these candles on Anthropologie's site. It really made me think of these flower candle holders that Dollar Tree just put out. So I picked up 3 of them. Now I wanted to create varying heights. So I went to Dollar Tree and I picked up some of their candle holders. Dollar Tree has several candle holders out and I wanted them to just be different heights. So once I had 3 that I knew would be at different levels, I wanted to spray paint these so that they were all a similar color. So I spray painted them a metallic gold color. So I took them outside, spray painted them on the back side, let that dry, then I flipped them over and spray painted them with another coat. Now with those flowers, just make sure that you spray paint them from the side so that you can really get the entire thing covered. Now my next step after I let it dry was to add E6000 to the top of the candle holders, and then I placed the flowers on top. After I let it dry, I added in some tea lights. You could do any kind here, but I think they look fabulous in a grouping. The last time I was shopping at Dollar Tree, they had this entire end cap of new items, and one of the things they had were these really pretty vases. I loved the colors of these, so I got 3 of them, not really knowing what I was gonna do with them. And when I decided to do this candle video, I thought these would be great to add a tapered candle to. So they had this like feather macrame piece on there. I decided to take that off because I wanted them to be really simple. So I cut that off of all 3 of the vases. Once I did that, the macrame frayed a little bit, so I just put a little bit of hot glue on it and wrapped it around so it looked like that macrame piece was just wrapped around the top. Once I had the vases prepped, it was time to put in the candles. Now, when I placed a tapered candle inside, it fell through the candle. So in order to make it stay at the top of my candle, I added a little bit of hot glue to the base of the candle, placed it in and held it until it dried. That did the trick. It kept it in place perfectly. And I did that for the other 2 candles. And here's how these 3 candles look in a grouping. I'm on day 7 of taking Grunes gummies, and I want to thank Grunes for sponsoring today's video. I was drawn to Grunes because it's a multivitamin, green gummy, and probiotic all in one. So in each bag, you're going to get a pack of gummies. Each one of the packs has 8 gummies inside. It makes it super convenient, so if I'm running out of the house, I can just grab one of these, and they're really tasty. They taste just like fruit snacks. I've taken a lot of vitamins in the past, and I was really drawn to Grunes. Grunes contains 100% of your daily need for safe vitamins. Your body absorbs Grunes better because it's in the gummy form, which essentially gives you more nutrients. Grunes is methylated, which is just fancy talk for our vitamins like folate and B12 can be absorbed by your body. I'm somebody who takes a lot of vitamins, and I was blown away at how many of the vitamins and supplements I take are packed into these 8 gummies. It contains biotin, which helps with thicker hair, which I love. It also contains mushrooms, which helps with brain fog. I also love the vitamin C because it helps with immunity. My favorite part is how convenient these are. I can eat them on the go and I just have to grab a little pack. Now, if you want to try out Grunes, and I definitely think you should, I'm gonna put the QR code right here. You can scan it. It's gonna take you directly to their site. You can get up to 52% off your order, and I'll also put the link for you down in the description box below. It's not a candle video if I don't dupe a Pottery Barn item that they have. They have these gorgeous candle holders out with the wrapped leather, and I knew I could do something similar. So I got a couple of vases from Dollar Tree. They have this larger vase out right now. Now this vase is $5, and then I also got a smaller vase from Dollar Tree. To mimic the look of that wrapped leather, I thought the most inexpensive option would be to pick up a belt at the thrift store. A lot of times people don't pick up the belts at thrift stores, so I feel like you can find several options. So you're just going to need a leather belt. Any will do, anything you like. And then I cut off the end of the belt and I wrapped it around my vase to where it covered the other belt maybe about a centimeter. I wanted to make sure I had a little bit of room to cut it off if I was wrapping it around again. So I cut a piece off for the larger one, wrapped it around the smaller vase, and cut that off as well. Now in the picture, the belt looks a little worn, so I wanted to kind of create that same look. So I got out a couple of my darker paints. I had a brown and a black, and I'm just gonna use a foam brush and run it along the side of my belt. This is going to give a little bit of depth and a little bit of a worn look on this piece. So I did that and let that dry before I moved on to the next step. Now, I wanted to add some sand at the bottom. I couldn't find the exact sand that I needed at Dollar Tree, so I did buy it at Walmart. And then for candles, right now they have out this new pack of 3 LED candles at Dollar Tree. So hopefully you guys are able to find these. Now, when I was shopping, I found them in 3 different colors. They had a cream, a white, and kind of like an orangish color. So hopefully you're able to find one of these sets. I'm gonna put those in my candle holder, and I wasn't exactly sure how high I wanted to put belt straps, so I put a little bit of sand in and was just kind of, you know, moving it around, seeing where I wanted to put it. Once I was happy with the height of the belt, I used hot glue to attach one side to the back. I made sure I held it in place till it dried, and then I wrapped around the other piece. If it was a little too long, which both of my pieces were, I just cut off the excess and hot glued that in place as well. Now I'm gonna repeat those same steps with my other candle, adding on the belt, hot gluing it in place, cutting off any excess. And then from there, I'm just going to add in sand. I want the sand to come up about to the height of the belt, and here's how they turned out. I saw this technique online of somebody creating an ice candle, and I thought it looked so interesting that I had to make it, especially when we're doing a candle video. So this ice candle was really easy to do. So I started by making it the same way I make all my candles. The same candle wax melt that I buy off of Amazon. I will link it for you down in the description box. I will also put the QR code right here so you can scan it and it will take you to the wax melt that I buy. I buy it in a larger box, so it comes with, I think, 5 inside, and it's perfect for a base for your candles. Last Christmas, my husband bought me this burner that I could use in my craft room. I think he was not wanting me to be making candles in the kitchen anymore. So I have this fancy burner that I'm using in my craft room. I also have a pot that's designated just for candle wax melt. It's an old pot that I used to use. So I started by adding in my white wax melt. So for this candle, I wanted it to have a little bit of color and scent. So I found these wax melts at Walmart that were in this blue color. So I'm gonna add a couple of these to my mixture, and I'll let that candle wax melt down. I like to use a popsicle stick to stir it, but you could use anything you want. Now, if you're wanting the color to be a little bit more vibrant, or if you think you need more wax melt, just add more to your pot. Now, what I like to use for my base, anytime I'm making a square or rectangle candle, is a milk carton that's made out of paper. I find this to be the easiest way to do it. So I cut down my milk carton a little bit so I had an opening where I could pour all of the wax melt in. Now, the other thing you're going to need is a wick for your candles. I have this huge pack of wicks that I use, and I will link them for you down below, but I don't think I'm ever gonna run out of wicks. I think there was like 50 or 100 in the pack. I'm gonna hot glue it to the bottom of the carton, and then once my wax melt is completely melted, this is where the ice part comes in. I'm just gonna get some ice from my fridge, and I'm going to place it into the base of my carton. From there, I'm going to add in the wax melt immediately after putting the ice in. I'm gonna place the wax melt in, and then to keep my wick standing up straight, I just added some painter's tape as cross pieces to hold it until it has a chance to dry. Now, what I like to do is just set this aside and let it dry overnight if possible. If you can do it for maybe 4 hours, I think that'll be plenty of time. It just kind of depends on how big your candle is. But then all you have to do is remove the paper. Now, the thing that I wasn't expecting, and I don't know why I wasn't expecting this, was the amount of water that was in the ice that was going to come out all over my table. I should have thought about that. So the water came out on my table. So from there, I went and got a little cup and started pouring the water out. But what happens is that ice is going to create this really cool barrier, and you're gonna have this interesting texture at the bottom of your candle. Once you get the outer layer and the water removed, let it sit and dry for a while. Now I did want to add a base to my candle, so I found this wood piece that I had from Dollar Tree. It comes in a larger pack in the craft section, and I just stained it with a darker stain color. Using my foam brush, I wiped off the excess, and it acts as a perfect base for this candle. The last time I was shopping at Walmart, I found these fancy looking matches. It looks so gorgeous. I thought they would be perfect to set out with my candles. Really, they'd be perfect all year round. I'm gonna style these matches with my ice candle. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is candle. This time of year, I feel like there's nothing prettier than having a mixture, a grouping of candles sitting out. So I went down in like my decor closet area and I pulled out my thrifted brass candle holders that I had. I also had these gold candle holders. I had them last year with some Christmas candles. And then I also had some Dollar Tree candle holders. Now, most of the Dollar Tree candle holders are black that they sell at Dollar Tree. So I took the black ones outside and I spray painted them a gold metallic color so they would fit in with my grouping. But I didn't want them all to look similar. I honestly love the variation of them. Next, I put in some white tapered candles. I had some different sizes. Some of them were from Walmart, some of them are from Hobby Lobby, some are from Dollar Tree, but you guys would be shocked to know all of these candles were in my craft room because I do so many candle DIYs that we had a ton of candles. So I'm going to add those to my candle holders. On one of the Dollar Tree candles, the candle did not sit down into the base, so I did have to hot glue that base of it to the bottom of the candle holder, but it worked really well. I wanted to add some warm colored ribbon to the base of these. So I found this one off of Amazon. I will put the QR code right here if you guys are looking for that, or I will put the link to it down in the description box. But I got 3 different colors of ribbon. Absolutely gorgeous, and I knew I wanted to tie bows to the bottom. So I started by figuring out how long I wanted it to be to tie one bow, and then I measured out the ribbon so that I had 3 pieces, and honestly it worked out perfectly because I had 9 candle holders and each of the ribbon packs was enough to do 3 candles. So I did 3 pieces in each color, and then I proceeded to tie bows at the base of each of the candle holders. And then from here, you can put these out on a side table. You could also put them out in the center of your kitchen table, but they make such a beautiful statement. When I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I spotted these candle holders and I immediately thought they looked like something that you would buy on Pottery Barn's website. And anytime I can find something at Dollar Tree that looks like Pottery Barn, I'm gonna pick it up. What I loved even more about it was that it came in 2 different sizes. So these candle holders I styled together. Now with the candles, this was even better. I was using some LED candles that I bought in the plus section at Dollar Tree. They came in a pack of 3, but I'm gonna put 2 of the candles in there, and I just love the way these look. If you guys can find these, I definitely think they're worth picking up. Now, the first time I did this project, I thought there's no way this is gonna work, but I'm here to tell you it does work if you wanna try this transfer technique. So I'm gonna show you how you can transfer an image to a candle. So you're gonna need any candle, but it needs to be a wax candle, not an LED candle. And then you need an image. I wanted to use a fall leaf, so I went on Etsy, found this collection of leaves, picked one that I liked, and that's what I'm gonna be printing for this project. So the first thing you want to do is print out your image in the size that you want to print it in. I feel like this is the first step that really helps you with your next step. Then you can figure out what you want to print your image on. So you could print it on fabric. I'm going to be printing it on tissue paper. Anything you want to use, that's the next step. So figure out what you want to print it on, and then you're going to cut it out so it's bigger than your image, but you want it to be smaller than your paper. So I'm gonna be using some white tissue paper. I cut it out and then I put it down to make sure it wasn't gonna be like hanging off the edge of my paper. Now the next step is to glue it down, and you want it to be stuck in place. So I flipped the tissue paper over, made sure I had glue on all 4 of the sides. Then I placed it on top of my image, making it as like flat as possible. I added another layer of glue around the entire edge. Set this aside, let your glue completely dry. Once the glue is dry, you're going to put it into your printer and you're going to print the image out the same way you just did on the paper. And it will print onto your tissue paper, which I think is so cool. And once you have it printed on there, you can cut it out and then put this image onto your candle. Do you guys remember when I used the napkins and my iron to adhere those to wax candles? It makes this amazing looking candle. Well, that's the same concept with transferring this image on. I cut out the tissue paper leaf and I'm gonna place it on my candle exactly where I want it to be. Then I had a little bit of parchment paper that I placed down on top of the candle. And then using my mini iron, I will link it for you down below, I heated that up and then I just ran it along the leaf. Honestly, just do it a few swipes. You don't have to do it very much. It really stays in place. Just do a few swipes on it until that wax candle is melted. And that's all you have to do. Then you have this image that's directly on your candle. And I'll show you how I styled it in my home. I'm constantly checking what the trends are in high-end decor, and one of the things I've been noticing is this marble look with more warm colors. So I'm seeing it on like Studio McGee's website or Crate and Barrel. They have these really cool warm looking marble pieces. And I don't know if you remember when I added this marble technique to my countertops. Now I did have a kit that I bought off of Amazon. I will link that marble kit for you down below, but I have had those countertops for years now and they still look absolutely amazing. But when I saw that marble technique, I thought, what if I tried marbling a vase in some of those warm tones? So that's how I did this next project. And I have to tell you, this was my favorite project to do. If you love to paint, you're gonna like this project. So I'm gonna be using one of the $5 vases from Dollar Tree. And because they used more warm colors, I didn't wanna use a white to spray paint it. So I went with Sand Dollar, which is this pretty kind of like ivory color. It's honestly one of my favorite spray paint colors. So I'm gonna spray 2 coats on there. I'm gonna start on the underside, spray a coat, and then I'll flip it over and spray another coat. I did go in and spray a 3rd coat on there just because I find that whenever I'm spray painting glass, it's a little bit more transparent. So doing those additional coats will just help it look better. Now, before you start doing the marble technique, you wanna let this dry completely. But it was a very hot day, so it was fine and it dried really well. Now I have a lot of paints in my craft room. So I went and found a sample paint that I felt like kind of mimicked that terracotta caramel copper color. It was like a mixture of all of those. I'm gonna be using this color in order to make that marble technique. You're gonna need a nice paintbrush that's thinner, and then you're also going to need a cup of water and some sort of sponge. So I'm gonna start by taking the paint. I'm gonna draw a line on in the shape of the veins in marble. The next thing you're gonna do is take your sponge and dip it into water, and then you're gonna start to dab the paint. Now, this first initial time, you're going to want to really dab that paint because really we're wanting more of that outside layer. You can always come back in and add more paint. So I'm going to dab the paint. Then from there, I will typically add another vein through the middle and dab that just a little bit more. Really with marbling, doing layers makes it look more realistic. And you really sometimes need to take a step back and look at it and say, okay, does this look like marble? If you don't feel like it does, maybe you need to blend it more, or maybe you need to add like a thicker line to the center. So once you're happy with that area, you can go to the next area. And really with marbling, I think less is more. Don't put too many veins in there. Just do a few here and there. But I did that all around my vase and it was so much fun to kind of create this look on there. I really think it turned out well. Some of the lines look better than others, but I styled it in my home. I just put an LED candle in the vase. Now for this next DIY, you're going to need a teacup. You may have this around your house, or you can find so many of these at the thrift store. So you're gonna need the teacup and the saucer. Once I cleaned up my teacup, I'm actually gonna place the cup part upside down. It's going to act as my base, and then I'm going to put E6000 around the base, and then I'll place the saucer on top. Now I wanted to make this into a candle base, so to do that, I picked up this white candle holder that they had at Dollar Tree. And I just want to use the top part. So I'm going to use my saw to saw off that top base. Now, this is going to take a little bit of work. I kind of sawed it, turned it a little bit, sawed it some more. And sometimes these will just snap right off. So I kind of bent it back and forth to see if I could snap it off. But eventually I was able to get that top piece off. Now with that top piece, I wanted it to be gold. So I'm going to be adding rub and buff to it. So just using my foam brush, I will add rub and buff to the inside and outside of that little piece. I let that dry. I'm gonna add a generous amount of E6000 to the base, and I'll place it in the center of my saucer. Let this dry overnight before you try putting a candle in. You can always like place your candle in and make sure it's going to stand up correctly, but let it dry. Otherwise, it's just gonna topple over if it's not completely dry. The next day, you can add in any candle. I'm adding in this gorgeous blue one, but I just feel like this is a unique and different candle holder idea. Let me show you how to make your own candle holders with DIY materials. So the first thing you're going to need are some legs that you would use on a table or chairs. You can pick these up at a lot of stores. I got mine at Lowe's. So I bought a smaller one and two larger ones. With one of the larger ones, I did cut it down a bit so that it would be a 3-tier candle holder. Now, one of the things you have to do with these table legs is remove the screws that come in them. We're not going to be using these screws. You're also going to need some sort of base. These bases I picked up at Hobby Lobby. You can get them when they're on sale, and they come in a 2-pack. Next, we're going to use E6000 to put the table legs onto the bases. You want to let this dry, and then you're going to put the E6000 on the top pieces and place those on top. Your candle holders are essentially formed. The next thing you're going to do is paint these. And anytime I'm painting something that kind of has a rough texture or edge to it, I like to use one of those round stippling brushes. I will link to some of my favorites down below. And I'm also going to be painting these the color Black Magic by Sherwin-Williams. I'll just add that paint onto my candle holders. Now you may run into a situation like I did where I didn't let the E6000 dry overnight, so one of my bases came off. That was fine. I figured I would just paint them separately, and then at the end I'll glue them back together. So you want to do 2 coats on each of your candle holders. Let that dry, and then you can add E6000 back onto the base and style these in your home. I'm going to be using some of my favorite candles. These are by the brand Melt, and I will link those for you as well. Found this bronze candle holder in my craft room. I also had a couple of candlesticks from Dollar Tree. So I thought, what if I turned this into a tapered candle holder? And I also had some leftover candles that I had picked up from Christmas. They were these green candles that were really pretty. So my first step was to try to cut off the top portion of this candle holder from Dollar Tree. So I used some of my heavy duty clippers to pull it off, and I just kind of wore it down and then twisted it off. I used E6000 to attach it to the center of my thrifted candle holder. Let that dry. Then I used some rub and buff. I went in with 2 different colors and applied that to the entire candle holder. And then I let that dry completely and then put in my green candle. Now to go along with this, I wanted to show you how you could create a really cute matchstick holder. Now I've done this before. I've done it with a really pretty vase with long candle holders from Walmart, but another way you could do it with just short matchsticks is to use any Dollar Tree vase. I had this white ceramic one, and then you need a match container. So if you open up the box, where the strike kit is, you want to cut that down and then make it the size that fits on the base of whatever item you're putting it on. And then you're gonna hot glue that to the base. This will be where you can light all your matches. Then on the inside of your container, just place as many matches that will fit in there. And then you have a decorative matchstick holder that you can place beside your candle. Do you love having candles sit out, but maybe you're not a fan of the way the outside of the candles look? Let me show you a quick hack you can do. Go to your thrift store and pick up a vase that's a little bit larger than your candle. And you just want to make sure that whatever candle you're going to use is going to fit inside of this vase. Next, we're going to decorate this. So I wanted it to have a cool stone texture. So I spray painted it with a cream colored spray paint on both sides. Then I added in one of my favorite spray paints, these stone textures. Now I will warn you with these stone texture spray paints, sometimes they get clogged and they don't work, which is really frustrating when you pay for a spray paint. So just keep that in mind that sometimes these have a little bit of trouble working. I do try to unclog them the best I can to try to make them work. But I'm gonna spray this stone texture all over my vase, let that dry, and then you can set this out in your home and just add in your favorite candle. Anthropologie has several striped items out right now. I have so many tapered candles in my craft room because I feel like I used a ton of them for Christmas DIYs. So I also wanted to use some of these tapered candles. So I'm gonna be using 2 blue ones, and I'm gonna start by getting out my painter's tape. Now I wanted to do 3 stripes on my candles, so I'm gonna use painter's tape to wrap it around where I don't plan on adding any paint. And then I'm going to do it on the middle section and then again at the bottom. I didn't really measure how big I wanted the stripes to be, but I tried to make them about the same size. And I'm gonna do this for 2 candles. Next, I'm gonna be using a cream sample paint, and I'll add on the paint with a foam brush. Now I'm gonna set these aside so that they have a chance to dry. Now you will have to do a second coat. So I put on the second coat, and before the second coat was dry, I did remove the painter's tape. And as you can see, the lines didn't look great. So I actually had to go through and freehand the lines. So I don't know, sometimes when you put paint on with painter's tape, it's good to go away from the painter's tape. I wasn't that precise whenever I was adding on my paint. So try that if you do this project, but you can come in and freehand pretty easily with a foam brush. They're not perfect, but they're not meant to be perfect. I'm gonna be adding in my new favorite candle holders from Dollar Tree. These are definitely an Anthropologie dupe candle holder. If you ever put your tapered candles into your candle holder and they don't fit in snug, I found this product on Amazon called Candle Grip, and these work really well. Let me show you how to use them. It's a foam piece that looks like this, and you're just going to set it on the top of your candle holder. Then take your candle and just press it down into the candle holder, and it holds it so well. Like, it is pretty secure. It's gonna hold it straight up. Let me know down in the comments which of these DIYs was your favorite. I love knowing your opinion. And make sure you subscribe because I want to see you back here, and I'll see you in our next one. Bye.